Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode number 20 in the book of Colossians. We're in the section where he's concluding now. In fact, the section in chapter 4 that we're looking at today is these final instructions. So Tychicus is going to be mentioned quite prominently. So the section is called Final Greetings. So we're going to learn today about a man named Tychicus. You may remember back when we were in the book of Ephesians, the same man came up. And the reason he came up is because of these great qualifications, which we will review again here today. And we're going to center on spiritual friendship. Okay, so Tychicus is a guy in chapter 4, verse 7, where he's mentioned. He's the guy that brought the letter to the Colossians. Verse 7 says, Tychicus will tell you about all my activities. He is a brother and faithful minister and fellow servant in the Lord. I have sent him to you for this very purpose, that you may know how we are and that he may encourage your hearts. Then he's going to go on and list a whole bunch of other people that are sending greetings and ministering with Paul. But I want to stop with Tychicus because there's such a great amount of teaching there. First of all, he is a beloved brother. So that is that Paul has this warmth towards him, that he is beloved. Secondly, that he's a brother. He's part of the family of God. And he has shown he's a faithful minister. So faithful means over time. He's showed this character over time. And minister means that he's had this job to do, that he's performed faithfully over time. So he's described as a beloved brother, a faithful minister, and a fellow servant. So this whole thing about aloneness and loneliness of our world, Paul and in here, Tychicus, are making this bond of service together and fellowship in the Lord. And finally, he's described as a servant, a bondservant. All right, so this message didn't get to Colossae by accident, and it didn't get to us by accident. And a part of the chain that got this letter to us is this man, Tychicus. So for a while, he was the only person in the world that had this letter as he was traveling from Rome to Colossae to deliver this letter. So he was sent with the purpose and the safekeeping of this letter. So for a while, think about this. For a while, Tychicus had the most valuable thing in the world, which was a communication from Paul. That's not what made it the most valuable thing in the world. It was that it was from the Lord. It was a communication from heaven, if you will, to Colossae, which has stood the test of time and is part of the canon of Scripture. And for a while, only Tychicus knew about it. So he was trustworthy enough to take this extraordinarily valuable thing to not only Colossae, but also to Philemon. We'll hear about him again, because Philemon's the next book that we're going to do, and also take the letter to Ephesus. So he is the keeper of the rest of the story. So he also says, Tychicus, after you get done reading this letter, will tell you about my activities. So after they finish reading Colossians, Tychicus is going to stand up and they're going to start asking questions. Well, what's Paul's prison like? What does he eat every day? Just all these other things. And Tychicus is the one that's not only the keeper of the letter, but he's keeper of the rest of the story, that you may know how we are. So because people are going to want to know, and we're going to want to know, and a lot of this is kind of lost. Tychicus is a guy who was around for many years, at least 12 years, because he's mentioned 5 or 6 times in the Bible, starting with the riot at Ephesus and early Christian activity. And he is mentioned as Paul kind of leaves the ministry in 2 Timothy. So spiritual friendship is what I want to talk about today. And this guy, Tychicus, is a guy who is a very good example of having spiritual friendship. So he's keeper of the Lord. He's keeper of this message. So first of all, he starts out as a saved person. That's how you start being a spiritual friend. Then you gather together in some sort of a church or whatever. Then you share the walk over time. And then Tychicus and Paul begin to share a ministry. Now, what's sharing a ministry? That's where you share treasures and truth and obviously time. Tychicus ends up sharing responsibility and carrying this important letter. And basically then this is how spiritual friendship happens. So I'm impressed today with how important spiritual friendship is. The first step, and if you say to yourself, hey, I don't have any spiritual friendship over many years. Well, the first question is Jesus your first spiritual friend? So if you're standing outside the church and outside of being a Christian, that would be first step. Believe in him. Second one is to gather. So the idea of Christian fellowship seems somehow today a more difficult concept than it used to be with the internet church and virtual church and podcast church. And I hope this podcast is useful for you guys that may be sick or traveling or searching. But basically, I hope it points you towards becoming in fellowship. Or maybe you're a person that was in fellowship and broke fellowship with the body that you've been walking with. You had the chance, but you sort of walked away. And if you have walked away from fellowship, my charge would be, hey, consider walking back. Third thing is time. Stay there over time. Fourth thing is ministry. Ministry means sharing the treasures, the truth, and sharing the time. And then the final thing is number 5 is to be encouraged in your heart. So, of course, to have spiritual friends is to be a spiritual friend. The challenge for you, have you gone out of your way? That means in a non-ordinary way to encourage their hearts. And then likely your heart will be encouraged as well. So let's all have the ingredients to have spiritual friends. And let's all have the ingredients to be spiritual friends, which are belief, and then fellowship, and then ministry, and then faithfulness over time, and then be an encouragement to those people. And likely then they will be an encouragement to you. So I hope that this person, Tychicus, has been a great example of being a spiritual friend, how to have a spiritual friend, and what are the benefits, namely encouragement here today, of having spiritual friends. So let's go find a spiritual friend today. How do you do that? You find a spiritual friend by being a spiritual friend. Go encourage someone today. Thanks for listening.